Let's work. Turn it down and listen to the experts. Gotta give a shout to the Talking Junk Network. Showing love, hosting battles, playing dope joints. The break room topics always staying on point. Never disappoint. We'll never need a makeover. We here for the takeover like Jehovah. Talking Junk break room takeover on the podcast. Dropping bomb facts on demand like Comcast. Now drop a comment whenever they're going live. Hit the YouTube channel right now and go subscribe. Peace.
Talking Junk Network,
where entertainment lives.
Welcome to Talking Junk.
I'm your host, Jason Melendez.
Live now every week.
Talking Junk.
A multitude of professionals in different aspects, different walks of life.
You have to come on and talk junk like a normal person.
Welcome to Talking Junk, the podcast that comes to you live every Tuesday night. New days, new guests, great topics. We got another great guest for you tonight. He is a celebrity chef with his own network television show on, I believe, Roku. And let's see here. Where is it? You get the drift anyway. We're gonna go right into it because we're making this from scratch, just like Joe Gatto does in his show, from scratch. How you doing, Joe Gatto?
What's up, my brother? How's things?
Hey, things are great. I am glad to have you on. Now, before we get into everything with how you became a chef and what led you to having your own show, which is amazing, I have to ask, because it's been bothering me a little bit. Do you know that you share a name with a retired Impractical Joker?
I do know that.
Any relation?
On Instagram, ask if I'm him.
Any relation?
No. Nope. Not really.
Well, I'm glad we were able to get that out of the way. Now, Mr. Gatto, what made you want to start cooking in the first place?
Well, before I love it. That 80s style retro. I loved everything. It made me want to now I'm a child of
I'm sorry, you were a what?
I'm a child of the 80s.
Okay. Now, I just missed the 80s. I was 3 years old when the 80s said bye-bye. I was born in 87. But I love the 80s aesthetic also. So once you got established in that, where did you actually begin to let your dream take off? Did you start at home, or was it like in high school with home ec?
Well, I worked and that's what I did for the first. That's what I did. Film, writing commercials. I'm on. My wife and I married, and her came to work on a set of a film I was directing, and together, and the whole time making everything I was making videos, I was always cooking. And then my wife was pregnant, and we didn't want to raise in LA. So next, that kind of. And then when we went back to Massachusetts, I started. That started food was taking and I bought and started buying a bigger future for like at the house and for clients. I got Red Sox, a Red Sox player. My TV show found it still. So I wrote a pilot. Then we met a set of investors. And a restaurant I had nothing, but I gave pilot. They took a look at we so I wrote, produced, and rest starred in the whole season. So I haven't that and kept it back. It was kind of the perfect storm.
That sounds like quite the journey. Now there we are getting a little bit of a feedback. Is there a way you can come a little bit closer to the microphone? It seems to go when that happens.
I'm right in front of it.
That's perfect now.
I'm getting more feedback as well.
Okay, so feedback as in you're hearing me wonky, or you can hear yourself.
I can hear your family.
You can hear my family. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Which is awesome. Family's there too.
That happens all the time. I got 3 little girls in the back. They're just running around. It's spring break. Yeah, I got 3.
I got 3 as well. I have a boy.
See, yeah, we got our hands full. Got our hands full.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But it'll help if I do this when you speak.
Yeah, that definitely helps.
Sorry about that. It's a new microphone, so it tends to pick up everything now.
That's good though.
Yeah, real good. I'm glad for the upgrade. But all right. So from what I got from that, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. But there was a lot of feedback. But let's see. So you started off in TV and film.
Yep, that from
So you were writing, producing, generating stuff for TV.
Yep.
You met your wife.
Yep.
You guys hit it off.
Yep.
You started a family. You decided you didn't want to live the fast LA life, which I can totally relate to. I was born and raised in the Bronx. My wife was raised in the Bronx also. We met there. We started a family, and as soon as she got pregnant with the first one, we didn't want to raise our children in New York, so we left and we went to Connecticut. But writing and producing and directing, that's something hard to give up. Really hard.
It was hard. I'm looking for people that, because the film industry is a lot of take, and a lot of people that they don't think that there can be multiple people on top, so they'll cut your legs out from you. Whereas the food industry is all about embracing and sharing a recipe, sharing a meal, sharing someone they know to help you get ahead. All I felt was a lot of embracing when I got into the food industry. And that's kind of the dude I am. I kind of roll that way. I'm much calmer, I'm much more family oriented. I'm not cutthroat. I like working with the same people. I like sharing. I like philanthropic adventures. I like that part of it, and that's why my show was so based in family and really sharing and getting to know people, and food is the backdrop to the adventure from scratch. I mean, granted, from scratch is the niche was, on the show, if some of your audience hasn't seen it, it's I make my own knives, I hand forge them, I make my own charcoal, I pull water out of the Atlantic, I make salt, I milk cows, make butter and cheese. I really went, I made, when I made my own charcoal, it was almost over the top, but I absolutely loved that part of it. And the people I was meeting, it's their stories, the artisans, the farmers, it's all their stories. And the food and what they did was a backdrop to it. And that's where my career continues to go. Everything, food leads the way, but it's people that matter to me.
So from scratch is not just a title; it's the whole theme of the show. You
That's
make
that's
everything
how I
from
cook.
scratch.
That's like my niche. That's why, from every show I'm in, I have my own radio show on NPR as well. And which is on WB or our Boston, which is from scratch. And I make everything from scratch on the air. And so like that's what I do. That's when I cook for NBA players and things like that. Everything's from scratch. So it's my niche, and I continue to do it because I absolutely love getting to the bottom of food. And everything around it. I find that journey really interesting, and that's what drives me. It's the curiosity that drives me, and then we found that there was an audience that loved it too.
Did you ever get any weird requests for a plate of food?
I I mean, weird requests are a dime a dozen. It's like everybody wants something weird, right? And I'm willing to make anything. Like give it to me. I love making. I love trying new things, and getting my kids to try new things. That like for me, that was the biggest challenge. For me was, my kids were never allowed to order off the kids menu. It's just one of the things that I just didn't want. I wanted them to experience it. If they didn't like it, fine. But now we have a place in Tulum in Mexico that we go to. But when we go down there, we're walking out in the streets, 10, and there's a big festival, and there's street carts as far as the eye can see, right? The big taco carts, there's just smoke billowing into the air. It smells amazing. The speakers are blasting music, and my kids are eating off those carts. They're not looking for chicken nuggets, right? All of that time spent as they've gotten older now pays off when we're out, and they can just really experience the food, because it wasn't me just being like, look, I'm a chef, you're not going to eat that crap. I'm not like that. It's
No,
that
you made them have experienced palates. It's great.
right, because the biggest thing behind it is you're not just experiencing the food, you're experiencing the culture. That's what you're experiencing. You're experiencing other cultures coming together to make, the tortilla started off in, way over here, and then they could only make it in Mexico because they had corn, right? And it's coming from the Middle East where they use wheat. So all of these cultures that are clashing, and the food continuously just changes. You're experiencing that. The grandmothers that are making these tacos and passing down these recipes, the churros, all of that is something that you're not just eating, you're experiencing that whole family and the familia and the culture, and wherever you go, that's true. So that's why food means so much to me. It's not just, yeah, can I make a fancy dish that looks great and tastes great? Sure. But it's a much deeper, richer journey for me.
Now, you might have answered this question before when we had some feedback. Where is base now?
I live
Boston? Okay.
Yeah.
So the food out there is great.
Yeah. I love the great food scene. I love that scene, but having lived in LA, that's what really changed everything for me, because over here, right, the food culture, it's fantastic and I love it, but it is
Heavily Italian based.
What's that?
Heavily Italian based.
Some of it, yeah, it's like Italian, Irish, and English, because you have to remember this whole side was influenced, by English in Britain and France. But when I went over to LA, where the food is influenced by Mexico, Asia, right? Totally different on that side of the country. And that's where everything changed for me. Because I'm just a different experience of food.
How do you feel about fusion food?
I'm not a huge, I don't go search it out, but I mean, I'm not, I love Kogi, like a great Korean taco truck, anything like that. Absolutely. If food works, I like it. If I blend two things, I mean, that's how so many foods happen anyway. They're just a fusion of cultures anyway. Tex-Mex, right? Sushi comes and changes constantly within the culture. everything. Like a hamburger was just, it's from Germany and they were slinging it in New York, and then someone put it between bread. So everything constantly in America is changing. That's why I don't really, there's authentic and traditional in a sense in my mind, but that had to come from somewhere as well. So if you say this, my brisket, is the authentic version, well, not really, because someone made it before you that influenced that, and then you had to use the ingredients that are indigenous to your region. So is their version that didn't use that not authentic? So there's this great chicken or egg argument with that. And that's another thing I love to discover.
Right, because obviously not just with different recipes, there's different styles of the same recipe.
Right.
Now, one fusion that we love right now is a word from our sponsors.
Me and my team, whenever we link up, they're gonna be drink up. We still gonna relax and have few glasses when there's things to think about. Like I'm nice with the boss when I tend to the boss, and I'm not talking drink ups. So tell the bartender that tended the bar to please pass me a big cup up. And tell that waitress that's waiting on us to put a little ice in it. Now watch the ice become weightless like the spaceships that I be sitting in. No wait and listen, no, they're waiting for that tropical twist that'll tickle your taste buds. Now taste some. Yo, I insist it's the drizzle.
You are hereby guilty of pretending to be good. You are hereby guilty of pretending to be.
Even the audio of my commercials messing up. I don't know what to say. Well, that was my attempt at fusion. Shout out to Dizzle and Heaven's Pantry's Excalibur. There will be a giveaway coming soon, so stay tuned to the social media sites. Now, from scratch, this is your baby, and you said there's one season right now, and it's on Roku and Pluto, correct?
Pluto TV, yep.
Now, are you coming out with a season 2 now? Are you filming?
Actually, with comedian Brian Callen, who is from The Hangover and Mad TV and things like that. So Brian and I have developed a show together called This Is Not a Cooking Show, where we go take out celebrities and kind of recreate their favorite food memories. And we're actually out pitching networks now. So we've been talking to everyone from Hulu to Sony to Food Network.
That sounds amazing. Somebody's going to option it.
Yeah, that's the plan, right? And then get a little green light and then start shooting another show. That's exactly what we want to do. So it's exciting. It's fun. I like that part of what I do. Just the whole developing TV shows is really fun for me. I'm developing another one for that's a family one, a family like throwdown kind of show as well.
Elaborate a little bit.
It's just kind of two families going head to head. It's like Wipeout meets,
like Double Dare.
Yeah, like Double Dare meets Chopped.
Oh, okay. So it's still going to be food based.
Yep, still culinary.
Okay. I see it. I see the vision. Now,
Yeah.
Do you ever plan on coming back to from scratch and do a season 2?
I might. From scratch was kind of its own animal, because I produced that. That's all mine from tip to tail. That was a long was a long journey. It was super fun, and I love that I have my own show on TV. But for me right now, it's really about having an opportunity to explore more artistic adventures. I really want to kind of do something different, which feeds me in a different way. I'm kind of always looking for something that's another challenge, and that I can kind of sink my teeth into. And it's not that I've done it and it's like, look, I finished it, it's done. It's that I just want to explore other things right now, and then maybe go back to that when I have some more stories or something more to share. Feel like just I would just be sharing to kind of cash in right now. And I really want to kind of try this new show with Brian, and looking at another show as well, and work with my production company that I work with, Buck Productions in LA, and my distributor, Principal Media, and just see if there's some more TV we can come up with and make something different again.
Well, you definitely have the ideas. There's no shortage there. There's no shortage of trying either. Your heart seems like it's really into producing these shows. And if your heart is not in it, you don't want to take a cash buyout for anything. Like, you don't want to do a season 2 just for the money.
No, I mean, I'm in it, I want to feed my soul as well. And I want to, be well-rounded and really enjoy what I'm doing. I love everything I do. I've never been a 9-to-5er. I've always been an artist. And I love that part of it, because it's constantly changing, and you have to be malleable. And really, and being an entrepreneur, you really have to put the time in. I never wanted a boss, and it's, I don't have one, never have. It's just not my thing. So every decision is yours, but you also have to really shape your own future. So if you're not doing it and you don't have an idea of what you want to do, then you're screwed, and you have to live in present day, but also know what lies ahead. You can't constantly be chasing the carrot. You have to really lay out and map out what you want to be, and know that it's going to change constantly, because it's like riding a surfboard, right? Like life, you can say, this is what I want to do, and that life's going to laugh and then kick you in the face. You know what I mean? Like, wasn't it Mike Tyson, that said everyone has a plan till you get punched in the face?
Yes, it was. Yes,
right. That's also life.
It sure is. It sure is. It always throws you for a loop.
Right. Yeah, 1,000%.
So when because it's gonna happen, when you start this next show,
it really depends on
who options it. No.
Yeah, we just have to. The process of making a TV show is long and arduous, and a shitload of meetings, lots and lots of meetings with lots and lots of executives. So it's a long path, because the show changes as people get as people get involved. But we really love this idea of food memories, so we're sticking with it. And then it goes into what's called a deck form. And once the deck is done, then the deck goes out to the networks, and then the networks take a look at it, and then they decide if they want to take another meeting. And then they say, okay, we love this idea. We love the principles involved. Let's have a meeting. And then you have a meeting, and you discuss the premise and if it will match up what their mandates are on their network and what it would look like. And then it goes to another meeting, and you start discussing, the intricacies of it. So it's constantly, it's a lot of work. It's not what people have in their head of, like, you write a show and you send it into the show place, and next thing you know, you're on TV. It took us from tip to tail. I think from tip to tail, from the concept to seeing it on air, it was 4 years from scratch. Because it takes a year to write it, like almost a year to write it and get everything up to be produced, because you have to get a crew, you're traveling, where are you staying, what's the camera, what's the look, what are the lenses, where's the sound crew, do we have permits, who's our contacts, do we have the city? because we were in middle of Portland, Maine, with 3,000 people for the end of one of our episodes, and we had drones flying around the city, and you have to have permits for all of that, and so just that alone takes like a year to get all lined up, and then you have to shoot, especially in Boston, it's not LA. You have to think about right? Like,
and not just the weather, just that depending on the episodes itself, you take up to a year to just film those.
Right. So
without any delay.
Yeah, and we filmed it in, I think it was just under 6 months. And then it goes into post for at least 8 months, right? And then once it's in post and then we got picked up for TV, everything has to be recalibrated for network. So they get it and they give you all the notes to match how they can put it into high output to put it onto the network. So then everything has to go back and you have to break things down and rearrange them so they can broadcast it. And then you actually have to get distribution. So you're signing the distribution deal. Like it's never, my wife and I always laugh because it's never like that thing you see in the movies, like our show's on TV. Yay. It's like 90 meetings and it's like, I think we're on. Are we on? Did we get on? Okay, we're on, but it's not for 4 months. But we're on. We're in what's called the queue now. Like, so our show is slotted and we're gonna get on, but they're revamping that. Like it is endless. But I will say, when you do see your show on the channel lineup and it comes out, and at this point it's like creeping on millions of people have watched it and written me, and it's touched people in a lot of ways. I mean, it is pretty cool.
There's always tedious bullshit in anything that you do. If you can still come out and say that you love it, your passion is still in it, then it's definitely worth the journey. Like, we're no stranger to hard work. Just because it's a podcast don't mean there's nothing, difficult about developing it. We're trying to evolve just the same way you are. We don't want to be a normal podcast, which is why I have the intros the way I do, which is why I do the commercials the way I do, which is why we're mostly visual. Right. I want to be more than a podcast. I want to be a show, and hopefully option myself to maybe Roku or Prime, which I've done before. I almost had a Roku channel, but the funds weren't quite there, which is why I understand why you took the choice to do it on Prime. On Pluto and on Roku for right now. But it's a whole nother monster from what I can tell from what you're describing, to actually get it on to an actual network or to get it on to one of these bigger streaming devices.
Well, Pluto, it really doesn't matter because Pluto is a huge streamer, right? It's them and Tubi. And when you're doing
1000%,
when you're doing VOD, right, there's a lot of advantages, because if you go network, right, we looked at all of this, we talked to everybody. So if you go with your first show onto network, right, they now control you and they control your product and you become theirs. So because you have no leverage, right? You're leverageless. You just want to get your show on.
Right. And the money and everything's coming from them.
Right. So which is a great way to do it if that's what you want to do. But when VOD was like Pluto and Tubi, things like that, VOD, they don't want anything to do with artistic decision making. They don't want anything to do with that side. They want to put on what you have. They want to buy your product and stream it because they think what you have is stream worthy and they think it will garner an audience. So now you're talking a whole different kind of thing. You're talking a different kind of financial deal, but it's still a solid financial deal. It's just a different kind of financial deal because you're video on demand now. But the advantages of a first-time artist, that's what streaming does. It changed the game for a small artist, right? Someone that comes up with their own show, produces it, it has a smaller budget. Where would 15 years ago, where's my platform? I don't have
Netflix.
Right. If right, and Netflix, how many shows you think Netflix even get to the point where the Netflix executives are listening to it?
Back then, very rare. Right now, every foreign producer in the world.
Everybody tries. I mean, we deal, like, my production company has deals with Netflix. Like, I know, like, that side of it intricately. Like, I know how that works. And everybody that has a show says, I want to put it on Netflix, right? Oh, I'll just put it on Netflix. Like it's like you upload it to YouTube. But Netflix has become what at first was putting out of business, right? Like,
right.
Monster. So that's how Tubi and Pluto and those guys came in, because they said, look, we don't care. We're going to offer commercials, which gives us the ability to stream free, because now the VOD is paying for it. That gives us the ability to get more money here to get more art. So they're getting the opportunity to find shows like mine and pay for that and put it on. And then we get to see the numbers, and they help build our audience. By putting it on their network, it immediately justifies everything, because it's obvious Pluto has a bajillion choices. They're taking 1%. So immediately people know if it's on the network, it must be pretty good. It might not be for you, but it's not some kid in the backyard with an iPhone.
Right. It's somebody. It's going to be for somebody.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's going to hit somebody's.
Because it legitimizes your product immediately, which that's the advantage. There's a lot of advantages to VOD. It's not like in the beginning where it was kind of the Wild West, where no one really knew what it was. And everyone was like, wait, is it YouTube? Is it Netflix? No one really understood it. We had the advantage.
People still don't understand it.
Some people don't, but some people are behind. Some people still don't understand cell phones. Like, if they catch up, they catch up. For me, I knew I've been in this industry for a long time. I knew rapidly that this is going to be a great opportunity, because once people understand what it is, why wouldn't you go there? I watch Tubi and Pluto all the time. And now people are like, oh, Pluto TV. I love Pluto. Now they're on Facebook. They're on Instagram. Everybody's like
everywhere. They right? have their own commercials on network television.
So by going on VOD, I kept my show the way I wanted it. They don't want any involvement in that side of it, which is unlike network TV, which is what I grew up with. It's either network or die. There wasn't an option, right? If you don't get on network, well, you're screwed. No one's going to see your product.
And then you get on network, you sign the contract, and then you're screwed anyway, because they take your likeness.
They can do whatever. You don't hear about these little shows coming out back then, because little shows didn't really come out. Independent movies did. And if you want to go back to the 70s or the 90s, the 70s with Scorsese, Coppola, right? Lucas, De Palma, all those guys, when they broke the studio's back and the director became the star, right? That changed everything in film. And then the 90s came, and you had Tarantino, Kevin Smith, and all those guys, and they broke the mold by doing independent films that all of a sudden had a humongous audience, because there was a thirst for it. And the studios didn't see it that way. They said, we're going to make studio films that make studio money. But there was a huge audience and a contingent of people that wanted something different. And the artists who were young knew that. And now it's the same with streaming, where an artist like me can offer up to a much bigger audience that I could ever reach with something like a YouTube or anything like that. It would take me years to build an audience for that. Where now
Right.
it's a network show, and if it goes on Instagram with their 500,000 or a million followers, right? Like that's a huge difference, and I get to see my art up on the screen, which is really satisfying.
And even if a small percentage of their followers tunes in, like something obscene, like 1%,
Right.
0.5%, it's still a plethora of eyes seeing your material.
Exactly. And the other advantage, right? I mean, not just people seeing it, but like I was saying, it really legitimizes the first project I did. I mean, I got it onto TV. I'm a, like my wife calls it, I'm a 1%er now. Because think about how many independent shows get made, right? From
Right.
any kind. Let it be a dump and stir cooking show to a paranormal show. It doesn't matter. That what it is ancillary to the discussion, right? Because there's millions of them, and people have YouTube channels, and where does everybody want to go, no matter what they say? Onto TV, right? That's where everyone. You can make an independent
Or radio,
right? Or radio, and you can make an independent film and say, I don't care if it gets in the movie theaters, but you don't mean that, because why would you make?
No, you don't. You at least need them in the film festivals,
Right? You want to see your work. If you're making a movie, you want to see it on a movie screen, and you can say you don't care if people like it. I've had this argument a million times. You do. Some people say I don't. I make art and I shit on the audience. Well, I just find that kind of stupid. But
you're
like,
really shitting on yourself.
right? I mean, I get a lot of enjoyment out of making TV, and I got a lot of enjoyment seeing it on the television. And I want to do more of that because it was satisfying to take it that far. And now, can we keep the same mentality and take it even further? Let's see. Because now that we got it did so well on Pluto, I was shocked. I thought we were going to be super nichey. And just because it's such a nichey kind of thing. But
people love cooking shows, and the way you did it, it's almost like Anthony Bourdain in a way.
that was the big inspiration, Anthony Bourdain and Julia Childs. Like it was because
love Julia Childs.
Yes, me too. I met her once, and like she was a huge. I grew up on my mom's counter watching a 13-inch black and white TV, and it was her and Jacques Pepin every Saturday. My mom and I would cook. So her whole thing was she wanted to inspire people. And I took that to heart when we started my show, and now any show. That's something that I truly believe in, no matter what I'm doing. Even my radio show, right? NPR reaches a lot of people. And
yeah.
Right. And I really want to inspire people. I want people to feel good. That's how I like to do my shows. I want them to walk away saying I can do that, or if they don't want to do it, that I just enjoyed that. I enjoyed listening to that. I enjoyed watching that. And what a fun adventure. Maybe my kids would want to do something like that. I didn't know you could make charcoal. Or I just want to make pizza with my kids. And they'll have fun making a dough. They'll have fun pulling fresh mozzarella. I didn't realize that's something we could do together, because you can order a pizza out all day, and I'm sure it will taste delicious. But if you make pizza at home with your kids, you're building a memory. That never
means so much more.
It never goes away. My kids cook with me all the time still. And I take a lot of pride in that, because I am really developing something that no one can take away. It's forever. And that's really important to me. And if you watch my shows or listen to my radio or anything like that, you'll see that's the backbone of my entire career. It's my family.
And that's the way it should be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what cooking and that's what legacies are all about.
I couldn't agree more with you, brother. I mean, it means the world to me. And once I figured that part out, because, you spend your 20s and 30s trying to see who you are and figure out what you are. And as an artist, I always was doing art and it seemed successful, but it never was soul satisfying until I had my family and I started doing it with my family. And then I realized what it meant, because art's not for me, it wasn't meant to be a selfish journey. It was meant to be a shared experience. And once I understood that and I shared it with my family, when I shared it with an audience, they embraced it.
And for you, it's a quite literal chicken soup for the soul.
Yeah. His brother. Sure is.
Well, I understand you 1000%, which we're trying to do the same thing over here. And that's the goal too. And if anybody tells you that they don't give a fuck about what they put out, they are 1000% lying.
Yeah.
Or just not dedicated to their craft.
I agree. I always is scared of the reaction they're going to get. So it's their way of buffering it. Of that, you know, if people don't like it, they can say, I didn't give a shit anyway. You know, like, because I just don't think, I mean, artists are releasing something and they're releasing it for a reason. If you're getting it out on the canvas or through a mic, however you're doing it, but you're doing it. I know there's some artists that don't do it that way, but most artists are like doing it so an audience is having some type of reaction, right? Like they're listening or they're enjoying it or they're disagreeing with it, whatever it is. But to say you don't give a shit, I don't know. I'd be hard pressed to really buy that from anybody. I'm sure there's going to be some painter that contacts me and says, I hate everything I put on the canvas and I hate anyone that likes it, and I'll be like, okay, you win.
Well, for painters, it's different because that's kind of how they bleed their soul on the paper. You know what I mean? Some people do it for the pure joy, like me and you do for the things that we do. Some painters do that too, but most painters will put, let's say, their anger in their work, and that's what makes everything pop.
Yeah, I mean, that's, your Pollock, everybody, like when you look at their work, they're literally spilling themselves on this. But you and I are different because I'm an entertainer. That's what I do. If it's radio or if it's in front of a huge amount of people and on a live audience, it doesn't matter. I'm there. For me, I just want to entertain people and really, I hope they walk away with a smile and a little bit of knowledge and maybe some good food they shoved in their pie hole.
Right. Which, if I ever travel up to Boston, man, we have to do this again.
Absolutely. You can come over. We'll do a live show and you cook with me.
That sounds amazing. I wish I would have started this podcast and did this episode when I lived in Connecticut because you were a short drive away.
Yeah. And I'd be feeding you. No doubt. No doubt.
Oh, yeah. This 200-pound man will take it.
Well, this 210-pound man will give it.
Hey, we are getting into a realm I don't want to get into. My friend Darby would love to be in this realm of innuendos. But I don't want to take up too much more of your time. You're a busy man producing and directing and writing and starring and cooking and raising dreams. So I do want to say thank you very much for coming on and helping us live out ours. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This has been a great way to end my night.
Thank you. That means a lot. Especially from a producer such as yourself. Now, don't go away. I'll be right with you. Let me close this out real fast. There you go, folks. Another great guest with another great, about 45 minutes of wisdom for that ass. Dreams only come true if you chase them. And you can only chase if you get up and do it. You need to be the Forrest Gump in your family and chase that brass ring because everybody wants to crash through that ceiling. I know I do. So help me. Go to every social media site, share it. Go to all our videos, like it, comment, subscribe. That's the way that we're going to make it to radio, to TV, somewhere to jam it straight through your eye holes like we do every week here. every single week on the break room, talking junk, takeover soon. Thank you guys for joining. I love ya. I sure do. Thank you very much for joining us today. Tune in next week. We're going to have another wonderful guest. Matter of fact, I'll tell you who we got next week. Next week, we got the man himself who you hear on the beginning of the intro, Mr. Sam I Am of 106 and Park fame. So tune in next week. We're going to interview a man that's been on every single podcast on this network except this one. So stay tuned for that. And we may get in trouble this Friday on the break room. We're going to be talking about the list. Yes, that list. Stay tuned. We might get kicked off of YouTube for another month. But who cares? We love it. Peace out.